Your kid is not big boned. You are just a really bad parent. So let's be honest for a second. If your kid is fat, you are a bad parent. There, I said it. A thing everyone is thinking about, but no one is courageous enough to tell you. If you have a child between the ages of 3 and 13 who is morbidly obese, this isn't just puppy fat or genetics. It's neglect in plain sight. Sorry, but there is no shortcut to this one. You are failing at the most basic job a parent has, keeping your child alive and healthy. And before you get defensive, let me ask you this. When was the last time you saw a morbidly obese puppy? You can't, because in the animal kingdom, an animal that overfeeds her young isn't considered nurturing. It's actively killing them. I used to work a job that required me to visit people's homes. In 3 out of 5 households, I saw at least one obese child, sometimes 2. Occasionally, the entire family looked like they were all competing in an official who can be the most out of breath from walking to the fridge contest. At first, I thought maybe this was just an anomaly. Maybe I was just visiting the wrong neighborhoods. Maybe this was just one city's problem or one region's problem. But then I started noticing it everywhere. Grocery stores, parks, or rather the absence of kids in this park. And worst of all, schools. Teachers, you see this every day. You know which kids are the first to get winded during recess. You know which kids can't sit in a regular chair anymore without spilling over. You are watching this crisis unfold in real time. So tell me, have you noticed this trend? Are kids getting bigger year after year? If so, leave a comment, because I guarantee you, you are not alone in witnessing this. And before anyone starts crying about how it's not the parents' fault, let's cut the nonsense. A 3-year-old isn't doing late dinner Uber Eats orders. A 7-year-old isn't hitting the drive-thru after work. A 10-year-old isn't stocking the pantry with processed garbage. Parents are. And that brings us to the real question. How did we get there? And why is childhood obesity becoming the norm instead of an outlier? And more importantly, why is no one talking about it? The normalization of childhood obesity. Remember when kids used to just have a little baby fat, a chubby face they'll grow out of by the time they hit middle school? Yeah, that's not happening anymore. What used to be a temporary stage of puppy fat is now full-blown obesity. Except, instead of addressing it, we have collectively as a society decided to pretend it's just another body type. Somehow, we have gone from, oh, they'll slim down when they hit a growth spurt, to, it's okay, all bodies are beautiful. And sure, all bodies are valid, but not all bodies are healthy. There's a big difference between natural body diversity and the very preventable reality of a 5-year-old who gets winded climbing a single flight of stairs. And what's worse, the more common this gets, the less anyone wants to acknowledge about it. Parents don't want to admit it. Schools don't want to address it. Even doctors, the people literally paid to tell you what's wrong with your health, are tiptoed around the issue because they are afraid of hurting anyone's feelings. You have got pediatricians saying things like, well, let's focus on healthy habits, instead of, your kid is on a fast track to type 2 diabetes before puberty. Because, God forbid, we offend anyone. This is how we have got here. First, we stopped calling it a problem. Then, we started calling it normal. Now we are pretending it's good. And if you think I'm exaggerating, just look around you. Look at how clothing sizes for kids keep expanding. Look at how playgrounds are getting emptier while fast food chains are targeting children harder than ever. Look at how we expect kids to glue to their screens all day instead of running around outside. We are not just witnessing a crisis, we are enabling it. And the scariest part, no one seems to care. We can't move ahead without talking about the role of parenting in this epidemic. Let's be clear about one thing. Kids don't buy their own groceries. They don't cook their own meals. They definitely do not decide whether they spend the afternoon playing outside or glued on their tablet. Parents do. So if you have got a child who is struggling with obesity, we need to talk about the uncomfortable truth. This is a parenting problem, not bad luck, not genetics, not some unavoidable fate. It's the direct result of bad dietary habits, lack of exercise, and a digital distraction that parents allow or encourage or flat out ignore. First, let's talk about food. Junk food isn't just in the house, it's often the house. Kids aren't being raised on home cooked meals anymore. They are living off frozen dinners, takeouts, and ultra processed snacks that are more chemical than actual food. And the excuse? I don't have time to cook. Really? You have time to scroll through your phone for hours, binge watch Netflix, or argue with strangers on Facebook, but you don't have 20 minutes to make something that won't push your kid closer to heart disease? And speaking of time, let's talk about exercise, or the complete lack of it. What happened to kids playing outside? What happened to bike, tags, climbing trees? Oh, that's right, screens happen. Tablets, phones, gaming consoles, YouTube kids have turned an entire generation into sedentary zombies. And instead of setting limits, parents just hand over the iPad because it keeps them quiet. Here's a wild thought. Maybe the problem isn't that kids have short attention spans. Maybe the problem is they are addicted to dopamine hits from mindlessly scrolling, and instead of stepping in, parents are handing over the next hit. But sure, let's pretend it's all the school's fault. We have to stop acting like childhood obesity is something that happens to kids. It doesn't. It's something that's done to them. A child isn't lazy by nature. A child isn't born craving McDonald's. There are habits that are formed, and if we are being brutally honest, parents are the one forming them. If you're a parent, you don't just control the food, you control the environment, you control the habits being built. If your kid is growing up overweight and inactive, guess what? You are just setting them up for failure. You are setting them up for a lifetime of struggle. So maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop making excuses. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, parents are a huge part of the problem, but what about society? Oh, don't worry. Society isn't off the hook either. In fact, it's worse, because while parents are failing their kids at home, schools, media, and corporations are making sure the problem never gets solved. Let's start with schools. You think the place responsible for educating children would be invested in keeping them healthy, right? Wrong. Schools are part of the problem. Instead of serving nutritious meals, they are feeding kids processed slush disguised as lunch, pizza, fries, chocolate milk, reheated mainstream meat. This is what is following the next generation. And the gym class, that's practically optional right now. Recess, shrinking every year. Instead of running around, kids are expected to sit for 8 hours straight, get pumped full of sugar, and then somehow not become overweight. But schools aren't the only ones cashing in on this crisis. Media and corporations are making billions off keeping kids fat, addicted, and unhealthy. Think about it. Food companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars every single year marketing garbage to kids. Brightly colored cereal boxes, cartoon mascots, Happy Meal toys, entire advertisement team working overtime to make sure your kid craves the worst possible food choices. And don't think it's an accident. They know exactly what they are doing. They hook kids young, get them addicted to sugar, ensure they become lifelong customers. And then there's the entertainment industry, which pushes this feel-good body positivity narrative that conveniently ignores health. Now, before anyone starts forming an opinion and foaming at the mouth, let's make one thing clear. Body shaming is not the answer, but pretending that childhood obesity is just another form of body diversity, that's not empowerment, it's enabling. We now live in a world where calling a kid overweight is offensive, but feeding them a steady diet of ultra-processed junk is perfectly fine. Where suggesting that kids should move their bodies more is considered fatphobic. but letting them rot on screens all day is considered modern parenting, or as others may call it, gentle parenting. Meanwhile, health issues like diabetes, heart disease, and joint problems are showing up in kids younger than ever. But sure, let's keep pretending that this is just about self-esteem and not actual life-threatening consequences. And why? Because there's too much money in keeping kids fat and sick. Schools get funding from the same companies pushing unhealthy food. Media companies profit from ad revenue targeting kids. The healthcare industry, oh, they love this because every obese child today is a future parent worth thousands of dollars in medication and treatments tomorrow. It's all connected, and worst of all, no one in power is actually willing to fix it. The harsh reality and the solution. Alright, let's drop that last bit of sugar coating, because reality sure as hell won't be serving anyone. If childhood obesity keeps getting worse, we are not just looking at the future of kids being unhealthy. We are looking at the future where kids are dying younger than their parents. Let that sink in for a second. For the first time in modern history, a generation might have a shorter lifespan than the one before it. And why? Not because of some unavoidable disease, not because of some unavoidable pandemic, not because of war or famine, but because of life choices. Choices that kids don't even get to make for themselves. Let's talk long-term consequences. Childhood obesity isn't just about kids being a little chubby and getting teased at school. No, this is about type 2 diabetes at the age of 12-year-old. This is about heart disease before 30. This is about joint problems, sleep apnea, depression, and a lifelong struggle of health issues that could have easily been prevented. And if you think I'm exaggerating, ask any doctor. Obesity-related illnesses are skyrocketing in young people, and we are barely scratching the surface of how bad it's going to get. And yet, no one wants to take responsibility. Parents blame genetics, schools blame budgets, corporations hide behind consumer choice. Meanwhile, kids, literally children, are paying the price for the cowardice of adults who are supposed to protect them. So what's the solution? Well, first, we have to stop pretending this isn't a crisis. We need to stop normalizing obesity in kids. Not shaming, acknowledging. There's a difference between being cruel and being honest. Right now, we have swung so far in the direction of acceptance that we have completely abandoned accountability. Parents, this starts with you. Control the food in your house. If your kid is living off processed junk, that's not preference, that's neglect. Cook real meals. Teach them what's actual food. Get them moving. Take the iPad away. Limit screen time. Get them outside. They don't have to be an Olympic athlete. Just let them be active. Be the example. You can't expect your kid to eat well and exercise if you are crushing fast food 5 times a week and haven't seen a gym since high school. Kids model what they see. Show them what healthy habits look like. But it's not just about parents. Schools need to step up too. Better meals, actual physical education, and no more participation trophies for just existing. We need to bring back real movement, real nutrition, and real accountability. And as for the corporations profiting off this crisis, they won't change until we change. Junk food companies will keep selling poison to kids as long as people keep buying it. So stop giving them your money. Stop rewarding companies that market trash to children. If enough people push back, they will be forced to adjust, because at the end of the day, they care about profits, not public health. Look, I get it. Fixing this won't be easy. But you know what's harder? Watching an entire generation suffer because the adults in their life were too lazy, too scared, or too comfortable to make a decision and take action. So, are we going to keep making excuses? Or are we finally going to take responsibility? Because the clock is ticking and the kids can't afford for us to not take action. Thanks for watching.